Good evening. Today is Wednesday, June 26th. June 25th. Sorry. This is a meeting of the Revere City Council's Ways and Means Subcommittee. Today we have a few departments on the agenda. I'm going to start off with the Consumer Affairs, the Office of Consumer Affairs, which is on page 127. I do want to acknowledge the members of the committee who are in attendance. We have Councillor Guanasso and Councillor Haz and Councillor Correggio, who is not a member of the committee. So I'll just ask that press the button.
Okay. All right.
Thanks
Good
for coming
evening.
tonight. I don't have too many questions, but I do ask that if folks have anything that they want to say or any opening statements that they want to make, and then I'll ask committee members if they have any questions.
I really don't have anything to say. Things are pretty much the same down there. Doing our best. And we got a few extra dollars. I mean, I did a few more hours. I put in a few more hours. We would like to have our office open regular back the way it used to be, at least 39 hours, but that'll come sometime down the line, I hope. That's about it. Any questions?
Councillor Guanasso.
Mr. Chairman, what can you cut from this and what can This is about as lean as you can get. This is lean cuisine.
Absolutely.
I have no objections to approving as submitted.
I am. Yeah. I've been.
Councillor Correggio.
I just want to say that they're doing an excellent job down there. There's really not much to do with the budget. I'm on board as the budget is presented.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's it. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Correggio. Thank you, Janine.
Okay,
Keep up the good
bye-bye.
work. Thank you. I did want to mention that I got a little bit of bad news about Al Morelli down at the Council on Elder Affairs. He is in the hospital currently, so we're not going to bring up his budget tonight. I may bring up his budget when the Director of Finance is available tomorrow. I know I believe we have the Planning Department coming up tomorrow night and Economic Development. So, and I believe that the Director of Finance will be in attendance. So if we have any questions about those budget items, we can ask him. So moving on, I will ask that the Superintendent of Schools, Paul Dakin, come on up.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good
Ladies.
evening. So I've been opening up to the department heads to kind of touch on any updates that they have on the budget or anything that they want to talk about generally, and then we go to committee members. So I'll give you the floor, Superintendent Dakin. I know you've done a great job, and you continue to do a great job making our city a place that a lot of people want to get educated in. So appreciate that.
Well, it's a little tougher for education this year. This is a tight budget. It's our tightest budget, I would say, in the last 5 or 6 years. For example, last year, and our budget in the school department is set by the state. So I think the citizens of the community need to know that. I know you guys know how the budget system works, but the state sets how much our community has to spend on schools. Then they say how much they will give, and then they tell the city how much the city will give. This is a difficult budget year. For example, last year, the increase in our budget was $6.2 million. So that was an increase over the previous year. The year previous to that, it was about $4.4 million increase. This year to next is only a $2 million increase. So when you get in the pattern of seeing how much an increase is, you start to put programs in place because you look ahead. And then when a year like this comes, in order to sustain those programs that you've put in place, it gets to be very difficult. We're managing this year. We're getting through every penny of the $2 million practically is eaten up by fixed cost increases. Those are guaranteed wage increases, which are 2% in almost across the whole school district with 1,000 employees. And those increases in costs for fuel and the like that we see. So there's really no room anywhere else. So it's a tight budget, but we're making it do. If we were to get another increase like this next year, only a $2 million budget, it will be a very difficult year. It would certainly be a year where cuts were involved in the school department. And you folks really have no say in that. I know you don't want cuts in the budget either, but it's a function of how the state is moving and funding schools, because they fund all of the schools proportionately to their populations. So it's a tough budget for us this year.
Thank you, Superintendent. I will open it up to committee members if they have any questions. Councillor Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I printed out the copy that we had emailed to us, and I reviewed pretty much most of the contents, as best I could. It's quite a bit of detail in here. And as the superintendent has stated, it's, it's levelly cost funded. It's, it is what it is so much. And in fact, it's only the way he decides to decide what's best needed for the school department is what appears here. And since he's the director and he's the superintendent of schools, and he has the oversight of the responsibility of the school system, I just think it's we leave it up to him and do as best we can to work with him, because it would be foolhardy to suggest that I could sit here and determine what's best for the school system when he, the superintendent, works on a day-to-day basis, and he has the knowledge and the wherewithal with his department heads to go over any of the needs that they have and concerns. So we can't disapprove it, we can't approve it, we can just work with it. And I think that we have a capable individual as a superintendent to work with. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Guanasso. Councillor Has.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I basically agree with what Arthur said. Paul, are you at net school spending, or how much over that?
We're right at net school spending.
Right.
We've been hitting the number regularly for the past few years.
Any incumbent money that we brought into 2014 of any magnitude?
That's the only reason that's helping us get through next year is what we've managed to save this year. Putting brakes on things when we saw the budget as it was. The law, as you know, allows us to carry up to 5% of our budget forward. So when you hear in January that it's a leaner year by the initial numbers that come out, you start to put brakes on things that you may consider doing and hold that money at bay because you'll need it to pay salaries in the next year. That's exactly what we did. You're well aware of the process. The school committee is well aware of that. They really this year spent a lot of time on the budget, and really that's your safeguard and the taxpayer's safeguard. There were more Ways and Means school committee meetings this year, attended not only by the members of the committee under the chairmanship of Mr. Ferranti, but full committees were showing up at those budget meetings because it was such a tough deal, and we were trying to save whatever we could and move it forward into this year as the law allows. The trouble is it's so lean in moving it forward one year. Next year, if we have something that we're hoping to move forward, everything's so lean, you're not going to be able to shut down anything because there's nothing extra in this one, which is why the ripple effect of two poor funding years is categorically our worst case scenario in the school department.
One final question to you, Mr. Chairman, to Dr. Dakin. With the new Hill School on Park Ave, do we have money in there in this year's budget for that, or is that going to be coming out of the bond issues, etc.?
Everything that's working through the Hill School project, everything that's working through the stadium project, those are two different funding sources, and everything that's working through what will have to happen as far as purchase of places for Fernwood and up in North Revere. Figure them as 3 separate funding streams. The school MSBA money, the grant that we got for the building, cannot be used to purchase those additional properties, or it can help to raise those properties and connect them in the parking lot, but purchase is outright not permissible under the expenditure in the grant. Likewise, what we're doing up at in West Revere in the St. Mary's area is also a different funding source of city money, and the stadium is a funding source of yet a different grant. So there's a lot of funding sources working. The best way to think of the school project is when you look at the footprint of the new building with its parking, that's where the MSBA grant is going. That's where the money, the city money towards that bond and the MSBA money towards that bond is going to that footprint. Anything on the stadium footprint or St. Mary's footprint is different funding sources.
Thank you, Dr. Dakin.
Thank you, Councilor Has. Any other councilors have any questions? No? Councilor Correggio.
Thank you, Chairman Arrigo. Doctor, I'm pretty satisfied the way the school department's being run. I think you're doing the best you can. What do we foresee for the future as far as student ratio?
That's not a budget.
Do we see a leveling off? We see increase? How many students do we have right now, and how many students do we have in the high school? So what do we foresee for the long-range part of the, as far as the school system?
High school enrollment is up somewhat. We're about 1,700 kids in the high school, or just close to 7,000 kids in the district now. This year was not as bad a hit as last year. Last year we were up 250 kids. This year, the year that we're currently finishing, we're up 150 kids. But 150 is a heck of a lot better than 250. But just think of that for a minute. If it still stays at 150 for 3 more years, 150, 150, 150, that's 450 kids. That's a school. There's no place to put those kids now, and I'm still, and you know, I'm sort of beat a dead horse all the time with increasing enrollment in the schools. For the 12 years of my tenure in the superintendency, you know, the district has gone from about 4,600 kids to 7,000 kids. And I don't think it's I do think it's a function that the schools are working as a good entity, but I also think more so that it's a function of the land use in the community and the transition from a generation of folks who occupied properties after the war, and how those people are moving on and those land uses are changing. So we're in a different dynamic, and the schools, and that's reflected in the schools. So I'm fearful still, even though that growth is like it is. Our kindergarten numbers right now, last year we were 608 kindergarten students, which was a record breaker. The highest we ever had before was about 501. Right now, to date, and this is very early in the system, we're about 526 kindergarten registrations for next year, and most of the enrollment comes, well, we tried to flush it out early so we could plan, but we know we're still due. I think we'll crack 600 again, which is frightening in a way, because as they move through the elementary schools, instead of cohorts of 500 at a grade level through the schools, when we have to figure a cohort of 600 in the elementaries through the schools, that has dramatic effects on space in buildings, and there is none right now.
Doctor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Correggio. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Dr. Dakin. My apologies for being about 10 minutes late and not catching the first part of your presentation. And that's really not necessary, because I know you're doing a great job over there in the school department. Whenever you have families coming here to bring their children in the school system, I think people understand we have a good school system here. My only concern is, when you say 150 children per year, for 3 years, that's 450 children. That's one concern. My other concern is there are going to be apartments built in back of BJ's. I voted against that, and that was one vote I'm very proud of, because I could see this coming. We're talking about almost 200 apartments going in the ground quickly down and back on the north lot. And I guess the central question to you is, Doctor, how many children do you feel are in our system right now that perhaps are living outside of the city, and what plans do we have to address that down the road? Because I hear people every day come up to me and say, well, I saw this kid get off the bus, I saw that kid get off the bus, and where are they coming from? And that's I think that's a valid concern, and I know it's not the total solution to our overcrowding, but I think it certainly is a step in the right direction for the school department to become extremely aggressive going down that road. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, just to go to your first point about the school department, the credit does not go to me. The credit really goes to the teachers in the schools who have accepted a challenge to reform the way we do business so that it would be a product that is as good as any in the state. So it's the teachers who deserve the credit with the administrators, but we also can't overlook those people that provide tremendous support behind the scenes. We have a great food service program, and the women in the cafeteria do a great job. The custodians, if you've walked through any of the new schools, they look like they were the day they were open. And even our older buildings, far as old as they are, the custodians, the men and ladies that work in that division of the school department do a tremendous job. On your second issue, we're constantly finding students. And most of the way we find students is internally, with teachers talking to kids, or kids making a mistake, or returned mail. Very few of the, quote, lots of kids are living in this community, there's a kid over here, actually materialize. We have 3 full-time employees that follow up on checking every student that registers at the Parent Information Center. They actually go out to those homes, see the kids in the home, and verify before we allow them into the school. So any transfer is also looked at that way. When we get a piece of mail back, the first thing to do is, these employees work a different kind of shift work for us. They actually stake out the home in the morning, see if a student comes out of that home, and they're working on radios back to the location where that student goes to school. They know the student didn't come out of a certain address and the student arrives at school. We know from the mail delivery that was just a mail drop. We find a lot of, that's probably how we find most students. We deliberately don't send much mail home. We can put it in backpacks, save money. But a mail home is something we've been doing more of, deliberately to catch the mail drops. What we do get a lot of, and this is where I think the buzz is in the community, a lot of conjecture that there are a number of kids. And when we ask somebody, okay, you know that, give us the name, give us the address, very little information comes back that way. People make claims, and I don't know why they make the claims, but there's no evidence backing it up. In those cases where we get evidence to back up a name or an address, it's followed up by those 3 full-time employees, and in all honesty, the innuendo pieces that are not found by a kid making a mistake in conversation with somebody, or from a kid telling about another kid to an administrator, or the mail drop, we get very few of those other leads, although we follow up on all of them, lead to kids that are not in the school. Yet, it's no lie. I suspect we have kids that are pulling off a good mail drop system with an aunt or an uncle's address they're using or a grandparent's address. We have caught them. You people, if I were to give names, which I never would, you people know the names of people if I were to say some folks that are using a grandparent's or an aunt or uncle's address. When we find those out, we remove them from the district. Do I think there are some? Absolutely. We're not perfect. And at the rate we get them, well over 100 a year, we know there must be more out there, and it's just a function of finding them. If people have a claim, I'd ask you, get us an address or get us the name of the student, and we will track any of them. That's what the job of these three people is. And we are flushing as much as we can. The reality is, and we've done this at times, there are 250 Broadway, at one time, we had over 90 kids coming out of that building. We have just over 60 coming out of that building now. But when you put up a big building, you get a lot of kids. And that's something that we have to wrestle with as far as, the way we're using our land goes.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Councilor Janino.
Thank you. Well, I think we all know that one of the most important things that Revere is known for is our school system. So, again, I want to commend you and your staff for that, because we really are lucky that all these people are coming to Revere. And one of the big reasons is it's a great place to have a family because of the school system that we have. And your budget is really, really tight. Are there anything that you can foresee the city can help you with in terms of working with such a tight budget in the future?
Well, I think we've worked closer with the city of late than trying to help the city side and at the same time the school department. A big example of that is, we have a fiber network that connects all of our buildings that is really a tremendous. We just moved it from 100 megabits per second to 200 megabits per second. People beg for 100, and we've gone to 200 because of the capacity. But when we were building that out, we had the wisdom we have to connect all the schools to make sure the route came by other city buildings, because we can build that network out on some federal grants, they're E-rate grants. And if the wire happened to be going by, Broadway to get to McKinley School, it'd be a good thing for the city side to catch into that fiber so that it could access the internet and communicate with other departments at a much higher speed. And our tech department, working with the city's tech department, optimized that. So it was sort of a partnership where we get much reimbursed by E-rate, but the city and schools benefit together. The city itself has its own problems in funding, and the best thing that we have been doing is optimizing our resources. So purchasing together, looking over bids more closely, using City Hall to help us look over bids, our people working with the tech people here to streamline communication, and those kind of things about purchasing items come to save both city and school. So I think there's a good yin and yang there, but to come here and try to ask for a few $100,000 other, I know it's not a possibility for the city. We have to live with what the state says we have to live with and just manage it, as tight as we can with those services that the city can help us with, combining with us.
Thank you, Councilor Gino. Councilor Ridden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, Paul, and I'm going to harken back to this point only because both you and I have been railing against whatever impetus there has been in this community to continue to build residential edifices of, I'll call them monumental proportion only because they're monumentally expensive to us. But in addition to that, it seems to me that we are suffering from another density issue, which is that multiple multifamily homes now seem to be occupied, at least to my naked eye, by more children than they ever have in the past. Have you considered the possibility, just so we can get a handle on this, and it may be something that would assist, for instance, inspectional services to deal with issues where there are families in a single-family unit. Have you considered possibly devising some sort of statistical study determining where this density exists? In other words, identifying specific buildings where you have, for instance, a 2 or 3 family building with 10 or 15 children using the same address. Would it be possible for you to get one of your data geniuses down at the IT department to put something like that together, so at least we'd have a picture of where the children are coming from?
We do have a working relationship with the Inspectional Services Department. When our folks are out doing those residency checks and they're at a home and they see something peculiar about what they suspected, a number of mailboxes or things going on, they can talk that issue from an inspectional point of view. But some of the deeper information, and we've actually had to inquire at the Department of Education's legal department about how far can the school department go in sharing information, and there are restraints on that. Not to the point where we can't start to help identify places that we feel may be in a role of over-occupied according to what a residency or zoning requirement would be. For example, if they're at a house and they look for a kid and they identify that rooms are being rented, that kind of thing can be passed on. To give names, numbers, or even counts of kids that come out of a building becomes problematic as far as the law goes.
Well, let me ask you this. Isn't it public information where the children live that are attending the school system? For instance, you obviously have a database that has each child's name and the address he comes out of. Without putting out the child's name, you could certainly provide the addresses. And as I say, if you've got a list of 25 children coming out of the same home, wouldn't that be something that you could share statistically with the building department so they could go down and say, well, geez, is this home big enough for 25 people, 25 children to be come out of it? I mean, that seems to me, I wouldn't think that would be, I would think that would be something, that information, addresses of where children are coming from, would be something that every citizen should be able to get who's paying for the school system.
I agree with you. Logic would prevail that you would do that, but let me give you what would be told to us by people that protect children. That if I publish a list and identify where all of our particular kids live, and if there are clusters of them in a home, I'm just identifying to anyone who may want to do harm to a child for any particular reason where to go. Where to potentially do harm to a child. So we're sort of restricted from doing that. I can't draw a dot on every house where a kid comes out because technically there may be some evil-minded person out there looking at that dots and say, wow, I've got a cluster of kids in this neighborhood. This may be a good place for me to do business. And that business could be drugs, alcohol, or it could be any other kind of thing that you could think of. So we have to walk carefully in that world, but trust me that the people doing this on school side and the people doing it in inspectional services, as much as we would like more of those people checking these things out, they follow through on every lead we give them, and we pass on those leads as liberally as the law allows.
Thank you, Councillor Ridden, and thank you, Superintendent. I think Councillor Ridden makes a really good point, and one thing that comes to mind, being kind of a data geek, is heat mapping, and whether or not there could be, and it's not. This wouldn't necessarily be by individual address. We could see, if it's up off of Park Ave, that we know that there are a lot of, if you say that you figure more than 2 or 3 kids are coming out of single-family homes, and you heat map that to a map of the city, and maybe not make it necessarily public, but kind of share that with inspectional services or the powers that be on the city side to maybe take a look and see if there's anything funky going around. Because I think everyone's seen it. multiple names on mailboxes and, single-family homes that are set up as essentially rooming houses, and a lot of times there are a lot of kids coming out of those houses. So I agree with what Councillor Ridden was saying, and I hope maybe there's some way to not harm the potential children and kind of keep privacy at a maximum, but still be able to share some information. And I think you're looking at every option. But the one thing that popped off in my mind was heat mapping, because I know that there are a lot of interesting technologies, especially with Google, that you can map. I know I'm doing it for voters, so you can do some interesting stuff with Google. One other comment that I wanted to make, and it was to kind of follow up on what some of the Councillor has had mentioned, was the money for McKinley School rehab. I noticed that there was $1.5 million in capital investment in city buildings. I didn't know if that was for McKinley or if that was for other projects in the school.
That's not in the school department budget this year?
Yeah.
That's not for McKinley Rehab.
Okay.
McKinley Rehab will be an interesting project. By that time, we will need more space, and we know in the superintendent's office we're going to have to get out of this. So eventually, we're going to have to be putting some money into rental space. Let's say a couple $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that money would be better served, instead of going to rent some space from a developer in the city, to go into and put that money in the form of rehab each year, chipping away more and more at the McKinley School, the old McKinley School, and bringing that facility up to a place where it could not only it's big enough to house well more than the superintendent's central office. It will be an asset to City Hall as well, and a joint venture moving that building along with the guaranteed input of the school department is, in my mind, a wise move to capitalize space and invest the taxpayer's dollar back into the taxpayer in the form of upgrading that facility, instead of investing it to a developer who has an apartment, an office complex where we would have to go in.
Yeah. And we agreed with that by passing the bond. I didn't know. I saw that 1.5, and I didn't know what it was for. Is it for any project in particular? Or?
We have capital improvements that we have to do on a regular basis. We have a big job at the high school. It has to be done with the HVAC system that's in there. We want to do some work in the high school auditorium. As you know, we've been regularly pitching some money towards upgrading the field house area, if you've been in the field house over the past year or two. So we're doing some of those core facilities that we know are around a long time. It's no one project that represents. It's a number of things. But there's also a component of that goes to our HVAC contractor, Amoresco, that maintains all of the heating systems throughout the district. So part of that 1.5 is a big nut that goes that way as well.
Okay. All right. That's all I have, and I think that's it for the committee members. Thank you, and continue to do the good work that you do.
Take care, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Next up, we have the library department, and that is on page 131. Good evening, Mark.
Councilors. How you doing?
So I've been asking folks to, they can kind of recap whatever changes they have in their budget. It doesn't look like you have too much, but any items that you might want to bring to the committee's attention, and then I'll open it up to members of the committee.
Okay. So as you can see, the budget remained relatively flat, except for a slight increase with the North of Boston Library Exchange contract. That did increase slightly. I should also say that I am again acting director at the library on a temporary basis until a full-time director can be hired. The trustees do plan on extending an offer sometime this week to somebody.
Great.
So happy to take any questions.
Any members of the committee? Members of the committee.
Mr. Chairman. Again,
Councilor Gonazzo.
I rise. It's relatively routine as to what's here. We see it's very clear, and that's all we can offer out to the community at this particular time, unfortunately. But At least it's something to give them to go.
That's correct,
to
yep.
start and to review, and through the hard efforts of some people like yourself and other dedicated library workers, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. Any other comments? I do have one question. The full-time library director that you're going to be hiring, did you guys post for that position?
We did.
You posted? Okay.
Yes.
And you got a bunch of resumes? And
Yeah, we got about 15 candidates.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, great. And Councilor Powers.
Yeah, I have just one question. I'm looking at the budget now, and I'm looking at the increase in the salary for the full-time library director, okay? And is there a particular reason for that? I mean, it's over and above the 6%, from what I can see, that we would normally be offering every other city employee. And I notice it's going from 46,000 to 64,000.
Correct, and that's because I was acting as a part-time director, and now we're hiring a full-time director, so that's the full salary
Okay, so it's going from what it was
to this.
past,
figure.
okay,
Yes.
thank you. That's my only question.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Any other members of the committee? No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Keep up the good work. Finally, we have the Parks and Recreation Department, page 136. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, councilors. How are you?
Good. So again, just any changes to the budget or anything that you want to talk about, and then I'll open it up to members of the committee.
As I'm sure you can see, we have many changes to the budget this year. We've asked for some additional money in for some help down at the rec center. It's been a few short months to me, 6 months in total that I've been on the job. We've accomplished many things, some renovation to the building, which has increased participation in the events that we have in the building by almost 15%. So it's been fantastic. So unfortunately, I can't do it alone. We have many new programs that we've already added and many programs that we're trying to add. And the manpower that it takes to run these programs is exceeding my abilities.
Thank you. Councilor Giannino.
Thank you. So as the chair of Youth Parks and Rec for this board, I want to thank you for all your hard work with the recreation department for our city. And I wish we had more parks to give you, and I wish we had more money for recreation. But as you know, we're in a tough situation with parks right now. So I'd love to get a chance to meet with you and talk to you about any ideas for maybe future budgets or future workshops for working on parks in the city. But I really want to thank you for your hard work because you have limited space to work with, so it's a tough job.
Thank you very much. We're trying hard. We're the additional space, the additional St. Mary's fields that have now seemed to come into play, we're very excited about. That's 3 more fields that, the DPW or myself are going to have to, maintain. So the addition of the stadium, we got a lot of things going on, and we're excited about it.
Thank you, Councilor Gino. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at page 136, and I'm looking at the assistant to the director. Okay. That's currently a part-time position now?
Yes.
How many hours per week?
Right now, it is funded for 8 hours.
8 hours, okay. And now, that's not Bob McCarrick now, is it? Is Bob still down there?
Bob is still there, yes.
Okay,
That's correct.
what is his position?
His title is assistant director. Yes, that would be the 8 hours.
Okay. And so he'd be going to the 32 hours, is that correct?
That would be a promotion for Colleen Argenzio,
Okay.
who is going from that clerk typist at the 32 hours right now into the assistant director's position.
Okay, so
And then
she would be the assistant director, am I
she is
correct?
going to be the assistant director,
Okay.
yes.
And I can fully understand, having been down in that department for 20-some odd years, I can fully understand the need for that position, and it's my intention, that's one of the increases that I will support in this budget here. I had a chance to look over your program, and I find it very comprehensive. There are some new things I see in there. One of the things that I look at particularly is the summer concert series. Is that going to be now, 6 weeks down there on the Sunday evenings?
6 weeks summer, yes, correct.
Now, how is that funded by outside support?
Funded by my budget.
Okay. The reason I asked that question because I was the one that initiated that program down there, and that's probably 15, 16 years ago, and maybe even a little longer. And one of the ways we funded that was to ask businesses in the community, whether it was at the time Wonderland, Suffolk Downs, some of the oil companies, to participate in that program by putting up the money to hire a particular group for a Sunday evening. And I think it worked out very well. And I'm just making this a suggestion that might be an area you might want to look into, to call some of these businesses and say, hey, would you like to sponsor a particular group on a Sunday evening? And I know it's probably too late this year to do that, but in the future to, put their name right in the program, give them a little advertising for putting up $500, $600, or $700, whatever the cost of the group was. But other than that, I'm looking at the budget. I don't see any thing wrong with it. I think it's the money you have in here is certainly needed to operate that program the way it should be operated and the way you're operating it today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Councilor Guanasso.
Well, Mike certainly had big shoes to fill, and Adrian, she did a wonderful job, Adrian McGuire, and everybody in the city knew that. But I saw you, as Councilor Powers alluded to, your brochure of the coming events that we have planned for our community. Very, very ambitious program and very interesting program, and I think that it's going to keep the kids busy all summer long and into the fall, which is absolutely what we're trying to do. So I remember years back, people would say, well, what can we do for these kids? Well, keep them off the street. Show them one of these brochures and show them what we could do for these kids. We're doing quite a bit for our children, and it's a credit to you and your staff and to put forth such a nice program for the kids. I showed it to my daughters who have young children, and they don't live in the city, but they said, Dad, that's really wonderful. That's good. It's a great program, and the kids will enjoy it. So, and it keeps the kids busy and active, and it keeps them involved in the community, and it keeps them out of mischief. So keep the program going, and I know it's a lot of hard work on your behalf and with your group, so keep it up. Good work.
Thank you, and if you don't mind, I just would like to make one point to that. Lauren Mcdonald, who is a college junior this year, basically designed the whole program.
Right.
So, and she's technically summer help, and we've got kids doing amazing things for us down here. But you made a very good point about when I was a kid, I could go out, go play block ball, stick ball, anywhere. The problem that we're facing today is that kids need structured events, and I just look forward to continuing to do it for years. I'm having a great time up to this point, adding many more events. But it's not just for the kids. We are trying to add, someone made mention to what a great place Hill Park was. It may have been Peter DiGiulio or Lenio running their farewell to Hill Park, but it was a place to be. It was a place for adults to be. have the softball league, and while the softball league is going on, there was a basketball program that was second to none in the area. And those are the things, those are other groups that we are trying to target. This additional budget money that we're looking for is going to give me the resources to go out and attract and bring that kind of entertainment to the city.
Well, I applaud your efforts, because it's certainly going to be a great thing for our community. And it's good to reach out to the young adults and keep them busy, too. And like I say, Eleni and Peter, they did a wonderful job this past weekend in giving tribute to Hill Park, as all of us older timers remember Hill Park. I remember going up there and getting a slush and watching a few innings of softball that was absolutely second to none. It was great to be there, and you met there and you socialized with your neighbors and stuff. So if you bring this type of attitude back to our community, it'll keep us together longer, and more enjoyment will be given to all of them, So men and women enjoyed it. So it was something for everybody. So keep up the good work, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso, and I'll remind you that Michael's not that old, so he doesn't remember those days of slush. Anyone else? Councilor Correggio?
Thank you. I'll just be brief. I just want to say you're doing a tremendous job. It's a good start for Revere's children, and it's all about quality recreation for children. And we want to give the children of Revere the best we can. Just one question. Are you involved with the parade? Is that part of your budget, the Columbus Day Parade coming?
I have seen a line item for $25,000. That seems like it's a line item for the Columbus Day Parade, which would be an additional taxing on my department if the planning of that is involved with that.
I know a lot of people have been, they want the Columbus Day Parade. It's been eliminated for quite a while, and we can bring that back now. The city, the city's growing, and they want to see a parade. It's been really sorely missed. So I will support you whatever I can to bring that parade back, and also all of the programs that you have. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you. I can only tell you that I've probably been to about 15 Columbus Day parades myself with my kids, so I'm looking forward to coming back to.
Thank you, Councilor Correggio. Councilor Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael, I have to say, I don't know if this is a coincidence or otherwise, but I did mention to the mayor when he was before us that while, understand the impetus behind this budget change, that that much money, an increase in that much money, percentage-wise over your previous budget, certainly deserved some detailed explanation. I have to tell you that I am extremely pleased with the response that I got, coincidence or otherwise, in the mail with the packet that you sent me. Not only was it responsive to the to my request and our request as a city council for details as to justify the increase, but it's I think a very positive and a very forward-looking plan that you have for the summer, and I wish you the most success in possible in implementing it. And I have to tell you that once again, the fact that it was your response was so quick and strong is not lost on me. Thank you.
Those words mean a lot to me, Councilor Reardon. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Reardon. And I do want to say that, Michael, you've done a great job so far, and some of the programming that you've put together, and the packet that we did receive was impressive. I do think that it speaks to how well of a job AJ McGuire did when she was Director of Parks and Rec, and I do understand that the need for additional services. I am a little bit hesitant only because of the fact that we're using reserves, and when we're using reserves to fund an operating budget and adding to the budget, adding people to the budget, it causes structural deficit that we shouldn't have. My understanding of the positions that are new, the assistant director is not a new position, but it is marked as a new position in the budget. Is that correct? Is that accurate?
It's only accurate because it's an increase of 24 hours.
But the position itself is not new. It's not a completely new position.
It is not a new position. Okay. This plans on being a promotion.
Yep.
And then there's a well-deserved promotion. I don't know anybody who has worked harder. When I came into, if you drive by the rec center at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, you may see the lights on, and it's not because we forgot to leave the lights off. It's because Colleen is in there working.
Yep.
So.
And I can appreciate that if there's a position or a promotion that's in line, I don't have a problem with that. There is another new position that's a clerk and typist, and that is a real new position. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay.
There's actually a position and a half that we're looking for.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're looking for one full-time person and then one part-time person?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And they're both new. They both be new.
They would both be new,
okay.
Right.
All right. And are those positions, is it the intent, I had mentioned this, and Councillor Giannino had actually asked about this when we had the mayor here. Are those positions going to be posted publicly, and will they go through an interview process, like normal?
That would be, there'd be, since they haven't been funded yet, but I'm assuming that we would go through an extensive interview process. That is correct, yes.
Okay. And just so the committee knows and members of the council know, I did request a little more information about any new positions, and I actually asked for the posting that would be going out for when the positions are posted. I assume they'll post them online, and if we could get a copy of them just to get a job description, I think it would be helpful. My one other question is, and I don't think, again, this is a new position, and this may be part of the kinks that go into putting together a new budget, but the Youth Summer Jobs program for $50,000, that's not new, is it?
That's been there for a while, at least
yeah,
for the last couple of budgets that I saw.
That's been my understanding. It's just marked as new, and it throws people off whenever you see anything that might be new. And my final question is on it looks like the travel allowance. Is that something new that's contractual, or is that was that an added amount of money just for this year?
Not exactly 100% sure, but it is added money due to the wear and tear on my vehicle.
Okay, and that's your vehicle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And Councillor Hess.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mike, since you've taken over, you've done a great job without question. I wish I had the resources that this mayor has to fund it the way it should be funded. And I really appreciate that because, again, it's for the youth of the community, and you're reaching out, as you indicated, to, young families. And I think that's what it's all about, to keep them involved for the summer months. I don't have any questions with this. The mayor has requested, as you indicated, a person and a half. Some other departments, we may not agree with the mayor in that. But as far as this department, without question, I think it's imperative that we take care of the youth services in the community. And I wish you the best of luck, and City Council's here to help you in your endeavors, without question. Thank you.
Thank you for those kind words. Just so that we're clear, at this second in time, it is just me and basically two part-time employees. I have one 32-hour employee, one 8-hour employee. I mean, that's, and I think that's where we're running into an issue is the amount of man hours that it takes to put together just this summer program. Is kind of mind-boggling, to be honest with you. And again, you drive by, the lights are on at 10 o'clock. It's because we're still planning something. We're so understaffed. It's incredible.
I don't see any more questions. Oh, Councillor Powers.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. I mentioned Bob McCarrick earlier. He's and I don't see that position in here.
What you'll see is, sorry. You'll see the new position, clerk typist.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. And then underneath that, you'll see clerk typist, 32 hours.
Okay.
Okay. 20 of it is for the part-timer,
Okay.
the new part-time, and then the additional 12 hours are for ACE.
For secretarial work, is it
What?
secretarial work or something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so
And I get one other question.
he's actually increasing. He's going from 8 hours to 12 hours.
Okay, that's fine. I don't
Yeah.
know, because I think he's very knowledgeable with regards to recreation down there. He's been there for a considerable amount of time. My other question is, you have a revolving account down there, cash revolving account, am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, can you give me an idea of what type of money is in that account now, and basically how that money is used?
Today,
Yeah.
that account is at $0.
$0, because I know a couple of years ago there was as much as $30,000 or $40,000 in that account, and it was used for programs. And I guess my question would have been, if there were a large amount of money in that account, why that couldn't be used for some of the programs that are in the budget. And I guess you've answered my question by telling me it has a zero balance in it, so it's a moot question at this point.
And there are at times when there is $30,000 or $40,000 in that revolving account, depending on registrations and what we're doing. Every dime that we get out of the recreation center goes back into another program.
Okay.
Yeah, we collect a lot and we spend a lot. That's basically how it is. But at various times, that revolving account goes up and down. So
Okay.
I just say today because we've prepared for the summer. When Munis shuts down, as you know it already has, and I've got performers and I can't get back into the system for almost 5 weeks, 4 weeks. They want to be paid, when they show up. So that money is already, we've put the purchase orders in.
Okay.
Prior to that.
I understand. Where there had been a lot of money in that account once before, I was just curious as to, what the amount would be in there now. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Powers, and thank you, Mike, again for your time, and thank you for the good work that you're doing. Keep it up.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
The committee has one other item that was received last night at our council meeting. It was a letter from the mayor with additional items for the fiscal year 14 budget. To recap what they are, there are a few. One is a change to the Director of Finance's budget page, and it's just a technical correction to some of the duties that the Director of Finance performs. In addition, there is an increase of, I believe, $20,000 for other post-employment benefits report, which needs to be completed next fiscal year. And we have two other items from relative to the City Council's budget. One is an amendment to change the number of clerks of the council and committees from 4 to 5, and the next is an increase in the City Council office supplies account from $63,000 to $79,000. I will open it up to committee members if they have any thoughts. Councilor Guanasso.
Mr. Chairman, in reference to the communication from the city clerk in terms of the city council office supplies, I like to be recorded as voting no in that particular. I don't think there's a need for an increase in that particular capacity, and so I would like to be recorded as voting no.
Councilor Guanasso, I think what we'll do is take each item up separately, or if, my thought is to take them up separately, or if committee members would like, we can take them up as a package, but my thought is to take them up separately. We can vote, we can have a roll call on each item, and then when we report out the budget on Thursday, I will report out recommendations of the committee and include these 4 amendments, if
Right.
that sounds.
And I get the wording from the chair when you suggested and stated that on Wednesday, it'll be final discussions on all the goings-on of what we had been conducting in these meetings, and all the councils were privy to come here and voice their opinions at that particular time. It's my understanding that on Thursday, we'll come in here simply to vote up or down the budget as submitted with the recommendations presented on Wednesday evening. Is that correct?
That's correct.
No further discussion.
No further discussion. We'll have the discussion tomorrow about recommendations of the committee. We will then report. We will pass a budget out of the committee with whatever recommendations the committee has, and those will be presented to the full council. And my thought is, and my assumption is, that that Thursday's meeting will just be an up and down vote on the budget, and it'll be that one item.
Okay, that sounds good.
Councillor Powers.
So this communication from the mayor, we're going to vote on these tonight, am I correct?
Yeah, so we're going to vote on them as a committee, and then we'll have to report that.
Report
we'll
it out
report
to the
those
full
out
council.
when we report out the budget as a
And that'll
whole.
be an up or down vote?
And that, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's fine with me.
Okay. All right, Councilor Janino. No. Okay. Any other councilors have any questions? All right. So I guess we'll have a roll call of the members on the first item, which is the change, the technical change to the Director of Finance's budget. Councilor Janino.
Yes.
Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Councilor Has. Yes. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. The second item is the addition of $20,000 for the completion of the other post-employment benefits report for $20,000. Councilor Janino.
Yes.
Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Councilor Has. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Next is the increase of the clerk of council and committees from 4 to 5. Councilor Janino.
Yes.
Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Councilor Has. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Yep. Councilor Has would like to change his vote to yes. And finally, the increase in the City Council office supplies account from $63,360 to $79,200. Councilor Janino.
No.
Councilor Guanasso.
No.
Councilor Has. No. Councilor Powers.
Councilor Powers votes no.
I will also vote no, and I am happy to vote no on that. With that, we will have a meeting tomorrow. We will have the planning and community development folks, and then we will open it up to council discussion where Councilor Guanasso.
Prior to adjournment this evening, I'd just like to announce that I will not be present tomorrow because of a personal situation. And so I will be passing out my recommendations to the chair, hoping that he will disperse them and hoping that the subcommittee votes favorably on my recommendations.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. The chair has received your recommendations. I looked over them. They are very good to me, and I look forward to passing them out to the rest of our committee members tomorrow.
Thank you.
I have my own that I will be passing around.
That's a very smart chairman.
And if any other councilors do have recommendations that they'd like to present to the chair, if they could if they could get to them tomorrow or at the meeting, prior to the meeting, we can pass them out to everybody. And we are meeting tomorrow at 6 p.m. So, all right. With that, we adjourn. Thank you.